Hi, and welcome to another episode of All Things Considered. Tonight I kind of want to speak to you on a couple of things that people have asked me about before I get into my actual subject. One, I was asked what type of camera I use to do my video because I don't use a microphone that sits in front of me. Now, my videos are probably not the most perfect videos in the world. They leave a little bit to be desired, but what I use is a digital camera. It's a Nikon. I love Nikon. I don't know why. I just do. I think it's because they're very simple to use, straightforward, just point and shoot basically. But this is a Nikon L830. And I bought it a few years back off of eBay, used. I actually probably should have paid more for it than I did, but I was on a budget and the guy selling it decided he would give me a discount, and I use it for my artwork. I draw and I photograph people when I draw them. For the longest time I did not like digital cameras. I thought they took away from traditional photography, but I've used a digital camera for the last 7 or 8 years now, and I really like it. And the videos that I do are pretty decent. I don't need to go out and get some real fancy video equipment. Now, if I had like thousands of people a day watching my videos and I was doing like tutorials for like how-to cooking or something like that, then yeah, probably I'd need a more high quality camera and I'd need a cameraman to do my videos for me, but it's just me. Also, this is a Samsung Galaxy S4 digital tablet, 10-inch. A friend of mine got it for me for my birthday. Although I do have to pay for the internet cost on it, which is $34 a month for unlimited internet. She bought the tablet for me, and it was a $700 tablet, and she got it on a discount. But that's neither here nor there. I use it to do all of my videos. I look up information, I read the information, like what I'm about to do for you now. And what I wanted to speak on was something that could possibly be a catch-22 and a two-edged sword. Originally this was brought up on August 5th of 2019. This is under the City Council, Homelessness, Housing, Human Services, and Mayor Durkan, and I'm dealing with Seattle again. Basically what she's done is she's passing, so she's going to try to pass legislation for the city that would do something that could possibly come back to bite her in the butt. And what I mean by that is that she means well, and I understand where she's coming from, I really do. But in doing that, you could displace tons and tons of people that kind of have shelter now, but could possibly be out on the street tomorrow. It says here, Durkan legislation would fine anyone, would fine, you know, like you get a fine for doing something bad. It would fine anyone who allows another person to live in extensively damaged vehicles. Like if you have like a trailer that's fallen apart, it's kind of habitable, kind of livable, but not really, and you're renting that to somebody for an arm and a leg because you know they need a place to stay, that's what this is going to deal with. She would find the person that owns that vehicle. Like if I had a camper and somebody was renting it from me for say $400 a month, and they were sleeping in it, but it was falling apart, it was run down, it had maybe some mold in it, or it was leaky, but you know, it was kind of safe but not really, and you were paying me for it, I would get a fine for gouging you for that because it's unsafe to live in, like an old rickety house that's been condemned. It says here, Mayor Jenny Durkan just sent legislation down to City Council that would give the city the authority to fine and prosecute anyone who allows other people to occupy any motor vehicle or recreational vehicle that is extensively damaged, like if it cannot be moved in case of an emergency. It's inoperable. Yeah, you may be sleeping in it, and yes, you may be getting a good night's sleep, but the person that owns it would be the one getting the huge fine. Durkan first announced that she would be proposing a crackdown on junk RVs in June on the grounds that the unethical RV owners are exploiting the homeless people by charging them exorbitant rates to live in an inoperable and dangerous vehicle. At the time, the mayor's office also instituted a new policy that makes it easier for the city to confiscate and destroy derelict vehicles instead of allowing them to go back on the market. So if you get busted and you've got a derelict vehicle, I mean, I'm talking bad. I'm not just talking a little damage, like a few dents and some rust, and maybe a cracked windshield or something. I'm talking about, and I'm going to use a photograph here to show you in the thumbnail what a derelict vehicle looks like. Yeah, I'm going to do that. It says here that inoperable and dangerous vehicles. At the time, the mayor's office also instituted a new policy to make it easier for the city to confiscate and destroy derelict vehicles instead of allowing them to go back on the market. Now, what I mean by a catch-22 here is that they might be using this as a way to just get all of them off the street. Oh, yeah, it's got a flat tire. Oh, it's derelict. It's inoperable. We have to get rid of it. They could do that. I hope not, because a lot of people are starting to live in their vans now. Because let's face it, $771 a month is not a lot to live on. I don't think anybody in the Seattle area that's got a house or that's got a $2,000 a month apartment could give all that up and live on $771 a month. I did that challenge to a person a while back. I said, this is all you have to spend for the whole month to pay your bills and to pay your rent. They couldn't do it. That money was gone in a matter of a couple hours. I have to make mine stretch for the whole freaking month. And I do it. But I don't have a huge nightlife. I don't go out drinking. I don't go to the bars. I don't go out partying. I'm by myself, which I don't really like that as much. I'd love to have a mate. I love women, and it'd be kind of nice to have somebody. It says here, Durkan's office provides no data suggesting the extent of this practice. Known RV ranching or car farming, and legislation doesn't specify how common, it actually is, using phrases like has increased in frequency over the time, and words like many to suggest that the problem is widespread. I asked the mayor's office for an analysis they used in crafting the legislation. The bill, which will likely be amended by the council, would impose a fine of $250 a day on anyone who allows people to live in a derelict vehicle, a definition that encompasses anything from cracked windows to leaky fluids to inadequate interior waterproofing. Well, there we go. Cracked windows. Well, excuse me. I'm getting over a cold. One thing that is certain is that residents and businesses, particularly in the SoDo industrial area, which is one of the limited number of spaces in Seattle, where parking RVs is legal, have complained repeatedly about the proliferation of RVs near their properties. They're getting upset with it, and the city is starting to crack down on it because it's an election year and they are trying to get things fixed. The bill, which will likely be amended by the council, $250 a day, okay. The person, presumably, but not explicitly a landlord, who actually owns a vehicle would also be required to pay up to $2,000 in restitution to the person or people living in the vehicle. The second offense would be a misdemeanor, subject to a fine of up to $1,000 and up to 90 days in jail. City Council member Mike O'Brien, who has supported creating safe lofts for people living in their vehicles to park at night, says although he doesn't support allowing people to lease derelict RVs at exuberant rents, I'd like to better understand how pervasive this practice is before giving authority to the city to do a lot more impounding and take away people's housing. If the goal is to get people out of living in RVs and into better housing, which is my goal, we should have a policy that gives these folks better options rather than simply taking away the one bad option that they have. One thing the legislation does not do is ensure that displaced vehicle residents whose next best choice might be a tent in the woods have access to adequate shelter, not just a mat on the ground or a promise of possible money in the future. People who live in vehicles have various reasons for doing so, ranging from severe addiction and mental illness to a lost job, to the fact that they offer more privacy, safety, and autonomy than other alternatives. Currently, the city lacks adequate resources to house or even shelter its thousands of vehicular residents, much less provide intensive addiction and mental health care services to those who need them. The scenario the mayor's legislation contemplates: kick people out of vehicles but force their landlord to give them a couple of $1,000s to land on their feet, is pretty unrealistic, O'Brien says. It assumes that people who own derelict vehicles are relatively wealthy themselves, which seems unsupported by what the city does know about RV owners. Without a city fund to ensure that vehicular residents actually get paid, O'Brien notes, it's hard to see how the legislation will actually benefit the vulnerable people it purports to help. And without guarantees of shelter, housing, and just compensation for any property that gets tossed away, along with a vehicle whose missing tires or poor air quality qualifies it as junk. See, you can't just do that. You can't just say it's junk. It has to, and you'll know junk when you see it. You ain't stupid, neither am I. The city council's not stupid either. They're viewing RV living as an eyesore. Although I have seen some RVs that look like a beautiful home. The legislation could be just another way of banning homeless people from existing in the city's public spaces. The council's Finance and Neighborhood Committee will get a briefing on the legislation this Friday morning. Now, I believe that the city of Seattle is pricing the homeless out, making it difficult for, well, I'm not going to say the homeless per se, the poor people. It's pricing the poor people out, and it's pricing the homeless out. So you basically can't afford to do nothing, you can't afford to buy nothing, you can't afford to go nowhere, because the city that is, well, I'm not going to say the city, I'm going to say the people within the city that have gentrified Seattle are wanting it to be the cool kids at the cool table and everybody else gets stuck at that crummy table in the back. So, yeah, I mean, I don't understand exactly what all this is going to do, other than clean up some of the really bad looking RVs that are out there, and people that are, because people's got to be safe. You can't let them live in a place that's going to create them harm. You can't let them get sick, and especially when you guys had a winter like you had, with all that cold snow and cold winter rain and wind, and how cold it got when you're not really used to it being like that. People that are living out on the street, they need to stay warm and they need to stay safe. I would prefer that everybody could have the mental capacity to have an apartment and afford it, but not everybody is like that. That's it for another episode of All Things Considered. Put a like and subscribe. Hit that button. If you like what I do, if you don't hit that button. But if you do like what I do, please hit that button and subscribe. This is what I do. I love Seattle, and I love America, and I love everybody in general. Just because I don't socialize with you, that doesn't mean I don't love you. From one global citizen to another, put a comment down in the comment section if you like my videos. If you think I can do a better job, let me know. If you think I did a crummy job, let me know. If you have an idea for a video that you want to see, let me know that too. I would love to talk to you, because this is important. This is our future here. Not just America's future, not just Seattle's future, not just where I live at, but the whole global economy. The whole global. This is our earth. God, I believe in God. God gave us this earth as a steward. He wanted us to be stewards over this earth. He created it. He put us in charge of it, and we've done nothing yet but just destroy it. And I'd like to see us build it up instead of destroying it. Anyway, this has been All Things Considered. Have a good night, Seattle, and all points beyond.